Three, four. Hi guys, so this is my second interview of the new Wubbin series. I've got Paul Lewis here from Satan's Empire. He was in a band called VHF and Belladonna as well. Bit of a legend on the new Wubbin circuit, and he's still going strong with, no worries at all, with Satan's Empire. So that's great. I've got a load of questions for Paul. I've actually had a lot of people really wanting this interview as well, which is great. So the first question for me,
okay, to say hi to everyone first. Hi everyone. Hi. Probably not used to seeing me with glasses. That's because without them, apart from playing guitar, I'm like Mr. Magoo, and so I've got to refer to some of my questions sometimes because getting on in age and the memory cells aren't what they used to be. So I might need a bit of prompting sometimes. So hence the glasses. But anyway, fire away, Jamie.
Yeah, no worries at all. So when and where did Satan's Empire form? It was in Scotland, wasn't it? Dundee, I believe.
It was, yeah. Satan's Empire formed originally in February '79 in Dundee in Scotland. Derek and Sandy were the two original members, and they had a bass player called Duncan Haggart and drummer called Billy Masterton, and so they gigged around in Dundee. Biggest gig they did was a gig in Caird Hall in Dundee, which is a massive big hall, and they were supporting the new Wubbin band Budgie there, and that went down really well. On the strength of that, they were offered a chance to do a track for Neat Records' Lead Weight album, and sorry, bear with us. Got people messaging me. Okay.
No worries. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all cool.
Hopefully that won't interfere. Hopefully that won't interfere with the broadcast. If it does, I might have to start again and turn the messaging function off.
I'm sure it'll be fine, man.
Anyway. Cool. Where was I now? So yeah, on the strength of that, the guys got invited to contribute a track for the album Lead Weight for Neat Records in Newcastle, and that's where Soldiers of War started. And it's been a track that the band are very, very sort of recognised for. It's a bit of a kind of cult track really in New Wubbin circles.
Yeah, it was actually the first track I heard from you guys. I bought the CD myself, and I believe it's the last track on the album. But for me, it is my favourite of it. But when you actually recorded it, was it in Scotland? Was it actually?
No, that was actually in. That's a bit further on. It was recorded in Craig Hall Studios in Edinburgh. So the lineup was the aforementioned Derek, Sandy, Duncan, and Billy. They basically recorded two tracks. One was Soldiers of War, and the other one was On the Road to Hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's actually if you go on YouTube, there's all these sort of New Wubbin songs everywhere, like really rare ones. But I believe there's a really old live audio of Road to Hell from Road to Hell.
That's right, there is, yeah. Sounds nothing like the first one that ended up on Rising.
No. You've got like a really long intro on the original one, I think.
It has,
yeah, bit different.
Yeah, we cut a lot of that out. When the band reformed, we got back together and we had a look at all the tracks and all aspects of the tracks, and we ended up rewriting half of them, especially with a lot of Gary's input. And we basically cut down the length of some of the songs as well, because they're all about 6, 7, 8 minute epics, and we've only had about 4 tracks on the Rising if we'd done them in the original format. So we had to modernise them and kind of bring them up into the 20th century, and that's how we did it, and the results were pretty good. And the overall sound of the new Satan's Empire now is quite a bit heavier than the old setup. Originally we played everything in concert pitch. We're now detuned half a step to E flat, and that gives it the extra bit of heaviness to it as well.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah,
So with the Rising, which is Satan's Empire's album, which they released just after their reunion, which I'll get onto a bit later. A lot of the songs on the album were obviously songs that were written back in the 80s, but then,
they were, yeah,
yeah, then came onto the album. So,
yeah. I mean, I must admit, in with the original songs, I didn't have too much I didn't have input. I didn't have too much input to the original songs because I joined right at the end of it when the band moved to London. But there's a couple more modern ones on there that I was involved with. Slaves of Satan that was recorded afterwards, and also Come Back had a big input to that one.
yeah, no, they're really good tracks as well. You've got Lucifer as well. Is that an old one? I'm trying to think. Lucifer.
That's an old one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that seems to have slipped out of the set at the moment. We don't play that live so much, but maybe we'll resurrect that at some time. I
Yeah,
think it's cyclical
it's a bit
sometimes,
more of
isn't
the
it?
standout one on the album. And for
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
on Hail the Empire, Black for me is the standout
yeah.
tune. Is that in B flat? That song? Did you tune down on that
It's got
song?
it's got a drop instead of drop D like a lot of songs. It is B flat. It's actually sorry, it's B, but it's dropped down to A flat to keep in with the sort of V flat tuning.
Yeah. Did you use a
It's
seven-string on it, or was it just a normal
no,
six-string?
no. Perisher
It's
thought
quite
that
low.
six strings are enough for us, but um, yeah, basically how we do it is quite a clever way of doing it. We just play the bottom E string when we have to, for certain riffs, and we've worked our way around it that we don't actually need to do it on a 7 string. Yeah,
Okay, that's really interesting. Well, that
yeah.
brings me to my next question, Paul. So it's quite kind of a old school question. So, what got you into playing guitar, and was it your first instrument that you played?
Well, I got into music at a very early age because I come from a musical family. My uncle used to play piano, accordion, and my mum played mandolin, banjo, and all my cousins played guitar and bass and drums. And they had a band in the 60s, which was like a kind of Shadows type band.
Oh wow,
Quite
that's
quite
wicked.
quite into that when I was growing up, when I was very very young. But my very first instrument I started on was violin, actually, and um, the, uh, yeah, I took a few lessons on violin, and then the teacher left. That's when I was at my primary school. So I started playing guitar when I was 8 years old, and I got a Beatles guitar for my first guitar, which was almost like a toy guitar, really, and
Mm.
started trying to learn how to play on that. And I got my first electric guitar, which was a Hofner guitar, when I was 10 years old for my 10th birthday, and that's when I got into it a bit more serious. Then when I was 13, I started playing some gigs with some friends, and started taking it a bit more seriously then. And my twin brother Eddie was a drummer in that band, and then he stopped drumming to become a DJ, but he's actually back onto drumming again now. But yeah, we had a couple of bands together in the early days. But um, the kind of revelation for me when playing guitar, I got really heavily into Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton when he was playing in Cream. Like they were my two first influences. And then later on, I had a revelation. I went to the Marquee in Wardour Street, the original one. From my friends who'd come to see this band. They were really really good, and it was UFO and Michael Schenker. I think he's not very much older than me, actually, only about
Mm.
2 or 3 years. And there was this guy, slim long blonde haired guitarist, wearing these emerald green sparkly platform boots and the flying V. And I thought, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
And I've always had a little bit of a love for glam rock and glam metal, and that's kind of what kicked it off. But Michael Schenker is absolutely phenomenal guitarist, and he's still
Oh yeah,
still a
definitely.
big still a big influence to this day. And also Randy Rhoads, you know, he's born in the same year as me. God bless him, but he's a huge influence on me still to this day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. But right, who really sort of got me into playing first of all was my uncle and my cousins, and I used to go and see them, and that's when I decided I wanted to be a guitarist and play in a band.
That sounds brilliant. I mean, the Jackson you play, I think it is a Randy Rhoads, isn't it? The Jackson
It is,
5V
yeah,
you got.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a story about that. When I was in Belladonna, actually the early days of Satan's Empire, I got myself a really nice Ibanez Destroyer DT50, which is exactly the same as Adrian Smith's one from Iron Maiden,
Hmm.
a sparkly red one. I love that guitar, but then my need to have a shark fin type guitar outweighed that, so I sold that to my friend Jeff, who was the other original guitarist in Belladonna. He went out to Sweden, and I've kind of regretted it ever since. And I bought this Washburn shark fin guitar, which was a pile of rubbish, to be honest. It just wouldn't stay into it. It looked nice. It was a pig to play. I thought, what have I done here? You know,
By
but
Shark's Fin, was it
yeah,
one of
shark
those
fin.
sort of
Yeah.
80s kind of
It
shark
was, yeah.
guitars?
Well, it was a kind of the same shape as my Randy Rhoads one, but a bit more
Okay.
squarish. And
Yeah.
it, you know, it really wasn't a very good guitar. I've had Washburn guitars since, which are good, but this one was a really poor quality one. I really shouldn't have done it, and regretted that ever since. I've not sold many guitars, but that was one I did sell, and I've regretted it to this day. So someone
Yeah.
had, unfortunately, my friend Jeff died a few years ago, and I didn't know until quite a few years later. We'd lost contact. I'll get onto that when I talk about Belladonna. He was a big part of Belladonna in the early days.
Yeah. No, that sounds really cool. I mean, sadly, I'd say I used to have a Randy Rhoads Jackson, but unfortunately I sold it. So yeah,
Oh.
the
Yeah,
heartbreak of
we all
selling the guitar really sucks,
do.
like for us
Yeah,
guitarists. So, and I
yeah,
remember there was a band in the 80s called Great White that did
yes,
have like a shark guitar, like the guitarist. But it's not the
yes.
same thing, is it? The Shark's thing. It's kind of a different
No,
guitar,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
I've actually seen Great White a few times. What a great band.
Oh yeah, they're
I'm
really,
a
really
big
good.
fan of all that 80s, 90s kind of stuff. You
Glammy
know, it's
stuff.
my
Yeah,
kind of era, really, even though I was a bit older by then. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Great White kind of had more of a blues kind of sound to them as well, didn't they? So they're slightly bit
They did,
different.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
To my mind, that's the best basis to start from. Like the majority of great guitarists I really like, and a lot of people really like, started with the blues, and it's a good
Mm.
basis for heavy rock and heavy metal, and it gives us a good grounding, you know. And you know, there's a lot of great shredders around, but if they haven't got that blues background, they haven't got a firm base to start from.
Yeah, obviously everything pretty much comes from the blues. So, I mean,
Yeah,
some people either love it or hate it, but this is where all
absolutely.
the sort of original
Yeah,
stuff comes from. So,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that brings me to my next question. So, where did Satan's Empire used to play? Obviously, they played around probably the Scottish circuit, like you've got like
They did,
Dundee,
yeah.
Glasgow, and
Yeah.
all that. So it's
In Scotland, they played in pubs and youth clubs, and they played at a Dunoon naval base, which Derek was telling me about that one. It was a bit interesting. I think they were expecting a country and western band first of all, and Satan's Empire parts up first of all. They were a bit overawed by it all, but they actually received a standing ovation at the end. So they won the crowd over. They played at Dunfermline as well in the pavilion, and then that ended with a big gig at Caird Hall supporting Budgie. It was shortly after that the band relocated to London. So they were chasing um, that elusive record deal, and that wasn't kind of forthcoming. So they thought, quite rightly, really the only way we're going to get this is if we relocate to the heart of a music land in London. So that was the decision behind that. Yeah.
yeah. A lot of people kind of say back in the day that London was the place to go if you kind of needed to get more of a break with your band or
That's
break
right.
out a
Yeah.
bit more and get more
Yeah.
noticed. So it was
That's
the
right. Yeah.
main place to really go.
Yeah, around that time, the band were trying to bolster their lineup as well as to add a second guitarist, and they did try a few guitarists in Dundee, but nothing really worked out. So when they come down to London, they recruited a guitarist, trying to find his name there. Um, my notes have gone out of sequence here.
That's all right.
Right.
It's all
Okay.
good.
But they recruited a guitarist called Terry Edwards, and he stayed for a little while, but things didn't work out long term. But also, when the band first moved to London, that's when they recruited Wayne on bass guitar. He was
Hmm.
very young at the time. He was only 18 when he first joined the band, so he
Wow.
was the baby of the band and still is actually. And yeah, when I joined, I was a bit older than that. I was 23 when I first joined the band, and there's a bit of a story to that. The band were kind of going through a little bit of a lull, and um, Derek ended up auditioning for a band called Flight 19 that I was part of at the time, and he stayed for a while, did a few gigs, and did really well. Played in the did quite a memorable gig at a Red Lion in Gravesend, which is enjoying a bit of a resurgence now with Thunderstick and bands like that. And so Derek ended up joining. The song we auditioned on was Victim of Changes, and most of the singers that were auditioning for the band fell by the wayside. They just couldn't handle it, and Derek come in, he absolutely aced it, and so we took him on straight away. It was really, really good. Done a few gigs, and then Derek decided that he wanted to go back with Satan's Empire because he missed the guys, and I think it's a kind of absence makes a heart grow fonder thing. So Derek went back and rejoined Satan's Empire, and wanted to take me with them. So I went along, auditioned for them, felt right at home from day one, and everything went brilliantly. And I was asked to join straight away, and
Mm.
the rest is history, as they say.
Ah, that's great. I mean, there was a point. I mean, I've got the next question here as you got the Soldier of War single that came out. Well, part of the lead weight collaboration on the CD and on the LP. But what guitar did you record on that song?
I didn't know that was before that was recorded when the band was still based in Scotland, so I hadn't actually
Okay.
joined at that point. But Sandy was the only lead guitarist on that recording. It was the original Dundee lineup. So there was Billy on drums, Duncan on bass, Sandy on guitar, Derek on vocals, and so Sandy recorded all the guitars on the original Soldiers of War, and it was on his 1974 Antoria SG Special, which was a basically a Gibson copy, but a very good copy. And years later, them kind of guitars were called lawsuit guitars because they were so close to Gibsons that Gibson kind of got the collie wobbles about it. So Sandy's got a very good one, but that's been through a few colour changes. And when I met Sandy again after the band reunited, the guitar was sprayed in a metallic green colour, which was really interesting. And then he's since had it all refurbished by Gary Magpie, our drummer's brother Peter, who's quite a famous actor, but also he's a really good guitar repairer and builder. So he stripped it down, refurbished it, and sprayed it a very sexy black, and it's looking great in there. So Sandy will start using that again sometime in the future now, if it fits the image more black than the green colour.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. But it's
Yeah.
cool how you can get a guitar and sort of modify it and change it all up. It's great.
Yeah,
It's really
definitely.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So Satan's Empire, when did you guys split? It was in the early 80s, wasn't it? I think.
It was, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What had happened? The band that I had before Satan's Empire was called Flight 19, and we had a drummer called Frank Darch, who was the original Maud drummer. He played on their first album, Warhead,
Oh
and
yeah, I know more.
um,
Paul Mero Day's band.
and yeah, he's a good drummer actually. But anyway, as I say, Derek and I end up jumping ship and joined Satan's Empire. But Satan's Empire split around about 83, 84 that we wasn't getting the interest that we thought we'd get from the record companies. Gigs were starting to dry up a bit because punk had come in and people were more interested in punk around that time, and new romantics, and that had kind of killed the genre a bit. So the work was starting to dry up a bit. So Satan's Empire split around 83, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Sandy and I formed another band called Sweet Revenge, which was very short-lived, and we had a bass player called Jerry Brown, a really young bass player from Norwich, and we had a young drummer called Jay Melbourne who relocated from Nottingham to join us, and that's quite a good band. We had a manager who was a bit crazy, and I think she kind of split up the band, so that only
Oh,
lasted
really? Wow.
that only lasted for about 6 months, if that. We did record a demo at Scarf Studios where we did all the Satan's Empire recordings, and that was with a guy called Nigel Palmer, who was a brilliant engineer and producer. He's done quite a lot of famous stuff.
Yeah.
But then that band split and we formed VHF. Then that was it. Sandy had got more into recording at that point. He was working for Trojan Records. And he was really busy with his recordings. So Derek and I decided to form a new band, and that was VHF. So the first guy we recruited was a drummer called Neil Richards, and he come from a band called Dumpy's Rusty Nuts, who are quite well known on the circuit. And then we got a young bass player called Sean Elliott, who relocated. Actually, he didn't relocate. He lived in Blackpool. He had a very benevolent dad who would drive him down to rehearsals and recording and gigs from Blackpool. And he had this really kind of fast turbocharged Sierra Cosworth. So he must
So
have been doing a bomb down the M1, I should think.
yeah,
But
so driving
yeah,
from Blackpool all the way to
yeah.
London.
But Sean
Wow.
was quite a strange package, because he used to play a headless bass, which didn't really kind of suit the metal image. But he was a very big fan of Joey DeMaio from Man of War, and he played in a similar style to Joey DeMaio, which absolutely suited what VHF were doing. But the actual style of VHF was a little bit more commercial. Um,
Mm.
and I think that was a kind of conscious decision to go that route. So we may have kind of had a bit more success. Maybe we did get quite a bit of radio play, and we got played on a station called Alice's Restaurant, which was a pirate station at the time, and we also featured a couple of times on Tommy Vance's Friday Night Rock Show. Yeah, that was a VHF tape, and that featured tracks called "Burning the Flags," "Nowhere to Hide," and "Heartbeat City." I don't know if you can see that on the shot.
Yeah, I can
Quite,
see it perfectly, Paul. It's really cool.
quite a good logo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
there was another demo released afterwards, with one of my songs, "Nowhere to Hide," and another track called "Insanity." But by that time, I'd actually left the band. We had kind of a couple of music differences, and the band wanted to go in a bit of a more commercial kind of vein, like even adding keyboards maybe, and that wasn't kind of what I was into. So
Mm.
I ended up joining Thunderstick's band after that. That again was quite short-lived. So I think I was going through a bit of a crisis at that time. I was a bit of a musical tartan and various bands, but I was quite young still and wanted to progress in the industry, and so Thunderstick was quite a step up, working with a name musician. Who played in Iron Maiden, also Samson, and so
Hmm.
I saw it as a great opportunity. And I liked their music, but because I was young and still quite inexperienced, I was very much in awe of Barry, and it was I felt quite intimidated kind of in that situation, and I think consequently I never kind of even though I really enjoyed what I was doing, tried hard, I never gave my best work. I don't think in that band, because I never really quite settled down like I would have done. You know,
Mm.
I often wish that you know, I was older and wiser when I'd joined that lineup, and perhaps things would have worked out a lot better. But I was with them for a total of about 3 or 4 months, and then decided it wasn't really working, and we parted ways. But it was a great experience, and taught me a lot about the music business and about songwriting. And the guys themselves were really really sweet. We had Jodie Valentine, who was a singer. She was brilliant. Sadly, she died a few years ago. And Dave Kilford was the other guitarist in the band. He is absolutely awesome, really nice guy, great guitarist. And we had a bass player called John Slight, who I knew previously. He actually joined. He was in a band with Bill Muldowney, who was the second guitarist that joined VHF. Um, really good musician. But he was always late for rehearsals, and he was always getting harangued by the band about his tardiness. Just
Yeah.
quite amusing. Without going into too much detail. But Barry, if he's watching this, will know about the big lateness signs that we used to post up, and it was funny. Like, we did have some good laughs, even though it was very serious as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What year did you join Thunderstick? Out of
That
interest.
would have been. Let's work this out now. I think it would have been about 85 roughly.
Okay. Because I think that's when just after Beauty and the Beasts came out, which was
Yeah, it was quite. May well
yeah.
have been 86 in that case. Then I joined. I think I replaced Chris Martin, who I actually got to know years later. Good guitarist, nice guy. I met him when I had my studio OTR studios in Hackney. Chris used to come down with his Bon Jovi tribute band, and so we got to know each other then. But yeah, he's quite a dark character actually. He's quite hard to get to know. He was a man of few words, but a nice guy nevertheless. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds very interesting. Very, very cool. Then shortly after that, Belladonna came about. I
That's
actually
right.
have the LP here.
Yeah.
It's got all the band on the front.
Yeah, that's right.
You
Yeah.
see?
You know, I look completely different now, don't I?
Very
I
glam.
told,
It's very glam.
yeah, I'll tell you a story about that actually. But basically, Belladonna, that was my first glam band. After Thunderstick, I started getting really heavily into bands like Motley Crue, and Rat, and I really wanted to get a glammy band together. And I like the whole image, and I like their songs. So that's where Belladonna come around. But just before the album, or sort of the single cover was done, I was going for a promotion at work. I used to work for BT, and I got my hair cut for an interview, which I didn't get. And I thought, what am I going to do that this album cover now? My hair looks like crap. And so I had a load of hair extensions put in, and they'd come out so long that I couldn't go into work like that. So I got them trimmed, and that's what's on the cover. So I had hair extensions on there, and they look quite naff, really.
Yeah, you. What I
But
can see.
how Belladonna come together? I went for an audition for an Italian band called Valentino, who were really good, and got on well with their guitarist Enzo. I didn't actually end up getting the job because we weren't quite right for each other. But Enzo said I'd know a guitarist who'd really get on well with, called Jeff, who used to play with us. So Enzo introduced me to Jeff, and we got on like a house on fire. He was the other original guitarist in Belladonna. Was he used to go under the name Jeff Fox in Belladonna, but his birth name was Jeff Roberts. But Jeff suddenly died a few years ago. He'd relocated to Sweden. He met a Swedish girl and got married, and they moved out to Sweden. And unfortunately, he suffered from depression, ended up taking his own life, which, you know, is very sad. I was quite, didn't hear it till 8 years later, and that really cut me up, because I wasn't expecting that. Like, he was always full of life every time I've known him. And I think he maybe changed a bit over the years, and I just really wish that he'd gotten in contact with me, and maybe I might have helped him through that. But uh, that's life. That's the other thing about Belladonna. We lost our original drummer as well. He died a few years ago. I think it was cancer. But
Mm.
I'll go back to the beginning when it formed anyway. So I met Jeff. We got on really well. We were like the same guitarist, same band. So we started looking for some musicians. We went along to a guitar show in Olympia, and we saw this guy in the distance who looked really cool. And I said to Jeff, he looks like Vince Neil from Motley Crue. Anyway, it turned out this was Vince, another Vince actually, and he ended up being our drummer. And he had spiky blonde hair, but he was a great drummer, and he was very much into Tommy Lee, which was perfect for us. He was a really good drummer, but he was South African. It was the strangest thing. When I spoke to him on the phone, he didn't sound anything like he looked. So anyway, he ended up joining us as our drummer, and he recommended his friend Chris, who was also from South Africa. That's Chris Gaskell, who became our bass player. And Chris is a son of Dave Gaskell, a famous cartoonist who's done cartoons for a load of different newspapers, and he actually did the cartoon. I don't know if your copy's got the cartoon insert
It
in
does
there.
indeed. So it does have the
Yeah.
insert. So if you do buy this LP, it's got this with it.
That's it. Yes. Yeah, some of them copies were in white, others were in pink. Actually, if you find a pink copy, that's probably very rare. But that was drawn by Dave Gaskell, and he's put his signature on the bottom right-hand corner.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so here's Chris's dad, and I met him a couple of times. He's a nice guy, very eccentric, but very interesting. And Chris is a lovely guy, and still in touch with Chris on Facebook. Anyway, after we started looking for a singer, we couldn't find a singer, and then Jeff suggested a friend of his that was in a band called Hell's Bells, who were doing the circuit. And there was a guy called Paul Quigley, and he was a very charismatic singer and a brilliant songwriter as well. He taught me a lot about songwriting, and it was through Paul Quigley that I got to like Warrant. He's a big Warrant fan, and I constantly become a big Warrant fan. I love their songs and really good songwriting. And so Paul with me wrote quite a few of the songs for Belladonna, and then Paul ended up going back to Hell's Bells in the end. So we thought, what we're going to do for a singer. So we advertised in Melody Maker, and along comes Gary Roberts. Gary Zell Roberts, who liked the name Zell because he was a big Alex Harvey fan. And so anyway, he came. He was based in Leeds, so he came down to audition for us. Fitted in straight away. He actually relocated from Leeds and moved down to South London. He was staying with Rose and I first of all, and then he done a house share with Chris, and also there was a guitarist called Carl there. Anyway, after Jeff got married and went to Sweden, Carl ended up joining the band. So the band ended up being 3/5 South African at that point. Carl was also from Pretoria, South Africa. So it was all white South Africans in the band, which was a bit unique, really.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, when they all spoke to each other, it didn't, without being racist, it didn't sound like a white band, but it sounded like a bunch of black guys talking, but they were all the sweetest guys, and we all got on really well. And that band did quite a few gigs. Unfortunately, then Vince started to become very homesick and getting quite depressed, and he was hating the weather in England and missing the sunshine of South Africa. So after we recorded the 12-inch single that you've got, then Jeff relocated. Vince relocated back to South Africa, So then we started looking for drummers, and there's a guy called Adam Parsons that had auditioned for VHF, and he didn't get that. But I thought he was very young at the time, and to be honest, his drum skills weren't brilliant. But well, I gave him a call anyway to see. He'd played in a few bands since then, and I gave him a call to see if he was interested in coming down to try it for Belladonna. So that's what happened. Adam come down. He absolutely stormed it. He was really good, and so Adam joined us as our drummer. But the band took a very big step up at that point, because Adam was always very business minded, and he was looking at getting us a lot of gigs everywhere, but also he was good at talking to people, and he ended up getting us our deal with TKA agency, which was run by Mike Koberman, who was quite a big booking agent at the time, and he had Tiger Towers and Tattooed Love Boys on his books against other bands. And so Belladonna ended up signing to TKA, and that's how we got a lot of our really good gigs. And we started at that point making some serious money, but we also ended up blowing a lot of money on transport and expenses and stuff like that. So we probably broke even at that time. But yeah, that was Belladonna. We got quite a few good write-ups in Krang as well. They liked us in Krang.
So with VHF and Belladonna, was it more on sort of the London circuit that you played, or did you kind of branch out? Or
yeah, VHF was that was London, and we went out to Gravesend and Kent and a few other places. But Belladonna, we played everywhere. We played up north. After I left the band, they actually played in Scotland, but we did a 2-week tour of Sweden as well. And that was great experience, and yeah, that was quite eventful actually. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite fun. We were sponsored by Coca-Cola, and when we were driving up to the furthest northern part of Sweden, the temperature had changed, and it went from being quite cold to quite warm, as a bit of a fluke in May. And we had exploding Coke cans in the back of the van, which showered everyone with Coke and kind of put us off it for life. Until recently, anyway. Yeah.
wow, no, it sounds very interesting. It's very, very cool. I can imagine it's a lot different back then than it is now, especially with the streaming and all that, and venues closing and things like that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So I've got here, so Satan's Empire reunion. How did it come about? So whose idea was it to kind of put it all back together, basically?
It's primarily Andy Gregory and Andy from the Carlisle. His wife Deb used to do a lot of gigs. We still do at the Carlisle in Hastings. But Andy got in touch with Wayne and said there's been a lot of interest from Europe, particularly from Guido Gavels from Negasonic Club in Aalst, Belgium. But also Derek and Sandy had been in contact again. They'd kind of lost contact, then got back in contact again. I'd seen Derek a few years before, because he moved to Romford, so we used to see each other every now and again. But he was completely out of the scene, because he got into religion in quite a big way, and then he kind of fell out of that and back into the heavy metal circuit again. But everything kind of happened at the right time, and this would have been in 2016, around August time. We Derek and Sandy and Wayne and myself met at a pub in Cambridge as a central point. By this time, Derek and Sandy had moved to Peterborough. Wayne was still in East London. I was in Essex, so we had to find a midway meeting point. So we met at an oldie worldy pub in Cambridge, and it was it's an absolute revelation. Most of us hadn't seen each other for over 30 years, and it was like we'd only just seen each other yesterday. We were really comfortable in each other's company, and everything felt right, and we decided then that we was going to reform. So then became the search for a drummer. So by a mutual friend, we got recommended Gary Bowler. He come along originally to just help us out and to play a few tracks with us, get us started. But everything clicked into place so well that within a couple of months, we'd asked him if he wanted to join the band permanently, and he did. And then he got very much involved in helping us to rearrange the songs. And within 2 months of that, we were in Newcastle playing Brofest. So we did one gig at my local pub, the Crown, in Hornchurch, which you're familiar with.
Yep.
That was our debut gig. And it was actually we actually done a few songs. Then my rock covers band Anthem did a set as well. So there's my two bands playing on the same night, and that was our warm up for Brofest. And then a week later we went out to Newcastle, played our first big gig, opened up the Sunday morning for Brofest, and apparently we broke the record for the most people present on the Sunday morning. The place was quite full actually. And we went down an absolute storm. Yeah.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, the band to me just sounds really tight anyway as a unit. So every time, obviously, I've supported you guys and played shows with you guys with the bands I'm in, and you guys always put on a really fantastic show. So
thank you. Yeah,
definitely.
I think we're very lucky now actually, because things are so good in heavy metal circles. I didn't realise there was such a resurgence. There's some great bands around now. Like there's a Reformed Titan. There's Weapon UK. Bands that you play in. Rampant and Andrew Coulson's Give 'Em Hell. Like all great bands, and the scene's very healthy. There's younger bands like Kane and Oswin Guillotine. So the scene is great, and also resurgence of Thunderstick as well. Like, great. And there's a lot of other really good bands that are not necessarily new wave British heavy metal, but they're sorry, I nearly forgot Buffalo Fish. There's Buffalo Fish as well.
That's all right. That's okay.
How could I forget Buffalo Fish?
With Terry.
And there's great new bands like Collateral around as well. I'm particularly into them at the moment. There's Air Race, who had reformed. Unfortunately, they're disbanding now, which is quite sad. I love Laurie's playing and Linda's playing, and really good band. And Laurie's son is an absolute powerhouse of a drummer as well. Other great bands around like Air Force as well, and Gypsy's Kiss reforming. So the scene is very, very healthy at the moment. I'm really sorry if I've left anyone out here.
It's all right, Paul. It's quite funny you mentioned Gypsy's Kiss, because I'm actually interviewing David tomorrow. So
oh, great! Oh.
Yeah, should be wicked. So,
brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Just a few final bits. So we're coming to the end of the interview now. So just a few bits about the Rising album and the Hail the Empire album, really. I'm just going to put my light on in my room quickly. Just bear me a sec.
That's okay.
So with the Hail the Empire album.
Yeah, guys found Rising, by the way, so I can hold that up.
Oh, you got it. The Rising album.
Yeah, I've got that now. So yeah, Rising. I'll talk about Rising first of all. That was initially recorded at Smokehouse Studios in London, and great studio actually. They've had a lot of famous releases. The one I can think of at the moment is Keen. They released Keen's album from there, and that was recorded by two people there, James Patrick and Paul Madden. They'd done initial recordings, so the drums were done there, and then Smokehouse fell into difficulties with a lease. So Paul Madden had actually built a studio in France by that time, in Hesdin, northern France, and Paul had relocated out there. So we ended up finishing the album in Hesdin, in France, and that's where all the guitars and bass was recording the vocals. So that was mixed, and there's a few sort of to and froings between various studios to get things right. But the quality of mixes wasn't sort of quite there. So in the end, we ended up enlisting the services of Gary's friend Stephen Loveday, who's done a lot of big recordings, and he's quite a well known person. He actually was responsible for the soundtrack of Friends, the sitcom Friends.
Okay, interesting.
He recorded that. But anyway, he done the mastering of Rising, and that went out. Then that was released. That was released in during 2018. How the Empire is a collection of completely new songs. Rise. Backtracking a bit, Rising was all the old songs revamped from over 30 years ago. How the Empire was completely new songs written by this current lineup. We're all very happy with this, and I'm particularly pleased I had a very big hand in songwriting this time, maybe making up for lost time from the original lineup. But yeah, we're all very involved in this, and we're all really happy with it. And that was released on the 20th of March this year. But coinciding with that, we signed a new recording deal. The original album Rising was released on 3Ms, and they were pretty good to us. But we've now signed with Dissonance Productions with Steve Beattie, and that is a brilliant label. It's got some really good bands on there, and it's a dedicated metal label. So apart from us, Desolation Angels are on there. There's Seven Sisters, Toledo Steel, Diamond Head recorded a few of their albums on there. So it's a well-known metal label, and they're distributed by Plastic Head, which is one of the largest distributors probably in the world. They distribute all Iron Maiden's albums and various, they're a very, very big distribution company as well as a great record company.
Yeah, they do. Dissonance and Plastic Head do a lot of sort of remixes, re-releases of things.
That's right. Yeah. They're the same organisation. Like Steve Beattie is the head of both. He's the MD for both companies.
Yeah, I mean, like Desolation Angels have just re-released an album that was only released on tape, I believe, While the Fire Still Burns. So that's really cool. Yeah, I've got a copy of that as well. It's very cool.
I'm going to take my glasses off, a bit more comfortable with that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so that's it. And how the Empire again was final mix and mastering was by Stephen Loveday. He did such a good job on the first one that we enlisted his help. I can't let the interview end without putting a name check out to my other band, Rock Candy. That's my rock covers band, and they're kind of indoors at the moment, obviously with all that's going on at the moment. But when I'm not gigging with Satan's Empire, I'm gigging with Rock Candy, and they're a really good bunch of guys as well. And also we made some really good friends over our European travels, over to France. Gang, like they're a great bunch of guys, and also Thorium and bands like Over and Spirit, and the scene in Europe is brilliant, really good.
Yeah, you've got British Steel Festival in France. I mean, you guys have played there. My band, Andrew Colton's Give Them Hell, have played there. Brilliant festival.
Yeah, it's great. We're very well looked after there, and they're absolutely lovely people there.
Yeah,
can't praise them highly enough. Yeah,
oh, definitely.
And also when we went over to play Heavy Metal Maniacs Festival in Holland, Eric, he was such a lovely guy as well. He really looked after us. There's some very, very nice people out there.
Oh, definitely. It's great to kind of play abroad as well, especially if you play festivals, because you get, I don't know what it is, but European fans seem to have more of that kind of vintage feel to them. So they like the new Wubbin stuff, and they come out and watch, and they really, really enjoy it, like especially the festival scene.
Do, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. So I've got one more question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
So think of a memorable or amusing memory of back in the day of any of your bands. If you could
Yeah.
pick like one.
I think some of it is belladonna really, like with the exploding Coke cans. That's fun when we sort of went sort of at the Arctic Circle, and also on that particular tour, we were accused of breaking a jacuzzi. Like we all jumped into the jacuzzi after a gig, and someone had actually put a toilet roll into the air outlet or inlet, and that completely trashed it, and we got the blame for that, even though it wasn't our fault. I think it was one of the other bands that actually did it, so we nearly ended up having to pay quite a lot of money for that, but we managed to escape it. Also with that tour, we didn't get paid until we came back, and that was quite difficult because we had to rely on the help of friends. We were supposed to be getting paid per gig, and often the promoter went disappears, and it wasn't very reliable. But in Sweden, they take a very dim view of that. And about 3 months after we arrived back in London, we got paid in full for that. So yeah, that's the most. Another thing is where we were doing a gig at the Red Lion in Gravesend with Satan's Empire, and Derek had quite a bad asthma attack, so we ended up going on hospital en route, and they gave him some air, which he felt a lot better after that. And we were waiting around ages actually to get out of the place, and they weren't signing us off, and we were in danger of being late for the gig. So we ended up doing a runner from the hospital, and Derek actually played a blinder on that night and sang. His vocals were out of this world.
Yeah, bit of relief, I guess.
Assisted by the gas in there. You know?
Yeah. Oh, of course. That sounds brilliant. Paul, that's pretty much it. That's
Okay,
it for the
brilliant.
interview. Thank
Thanks
you
very
very
much
much
for talking to
indeed.
me. It's been my pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just before I go, so please buy this album, support music. This is Satan's Empire's new album, Hail the Empire. I've listened to it
Okay,
myself.
good.
It's a brilliant album. Also, The
Thank you very
Rising.
much.
There are other albums on sale as well to listen to. And there's also the original Soldiers of War single you can listen to as well. But please
Yeah.
buy CDs. You can listen to this on YouTube, but to buy the CDs, it's very important to keep music
Okay,
alive.
thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Paul.
We like, thank you. Yeah, we like people downloading stuff, but I'm old school, and I much prefer something I can hold, a CD or vinyl. And at some point, How the Empire will come out on vinyl, as in discussions at the moment. So we're hoping that won't be too long.
Yeah, a T-shirt design like of the Rising. Like we both got the Rising T-shirt on at the moment.
That's
Do you
right.
reckon there'll be? Yeah. Do you reckon there'll
Okay,
be one for
cheers.
Hail the Empire as well, Paul?
That's what we'll look at next.
Yeah.
Yeah. But good luck with your bands too, Jamie.
Thank you very much,
Hope
Paul.
we
Really
meet on the road
appreciate it.
very soon, as this is all over and done with. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Just have to kind of
brilliant.
sit through it, but I'm sure we'll be all right. Thank you very much, Paul.
Okay, cheers. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Peace.